welcome along to VSL F1 Season 10, round number 5 of the season. We head to the Hungary for the second sprint race of the season. Monaco without the barriers. Not sure why they want to do a sprint race there, but should be a unique challenge nonetheless. My name is Jess Ball, and joining me after a week off, we've got Aidan Carter back in the commentary box. Welcome back, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, my voice is somewhat recovered pretty much now from last week, so hopefully it is all good. And yeah, looking forward to what's going to be an interesting race tonight. Like you said, sprint race around the Hungary ring is definitely an interesting choice, so it could spring up a few surprises race-wise as well. And of course, we've had a bit of a development in the championship after last week as well. So yeah, looking forward to tonight. It's going to be very interesting.
Yes, Jinx leading the championship after leading the race by 7 seconds over his main rivals. A few people struggled. Tam had his first race where he DNF for the first time, which was very frustrating for him, but surely he can recover and be up near the top today, especially with the sprint race. Charlie Harris finished in second, and he's climbed up to a really good third in the championship and not that far behind Tam. Yarham had a good result as well, finished on the podium after starting third as well, so we thought that nothing else happened to him if you look at the results, but actually a lot happened to him and he managed to keep it clean. Casper finished in fourth, even though he had a few spins he wanted higher, but fourth was what he could muster last week. Luke finished fifth, Matta finished sixth, and Cam also did not have a good race this time last week either, but he finished in 11th, still got some points, but he's way down in 5th place. So Williams are not the dominant force as we make out to be at the moment, but it's nice to see some new challenges around there as well. We are about to get going for one-shot qualifying to decide the grid then. We've seen shocks through the order in one-shot qualifying in other leagues. Maybe will we get the same here in Hungary? Because qualifying is so important.
Yeah, it's definitely potential for a tracker like Hungary to spring up surprise in one-shot qualifying. Obviously, if you're familiar with the game, then you know that you start qualifying, one-shot qualifying at least, with fairly warm tyres, and Hungary's not the best in tyre temperatures. It's kind of relentless, isn't it? There's not really anywhere to cool the tyres down. Even the pit straight isn't that long, so it's hard on tyres, and of course track limits around Budapest is going to be another thing as well. There's a lot of points, especially in the middle part of the lap where you can invalidate turn 4. You've got, of course, at the end at turn 11 as well, turn 12. Quite a few places that you can invalidate the lap. So I think we're going to see a few surprises potentially in qualifying, and I think the fact that we've chosen this round as a sprint race as well is going to be interesting, because if you do have a bad one-shot quali, it's not as easy as other tracks to overtake. So actually, having the sprint race may not work in your favour in the end, because you'll be far down and maybe not get the opportunity to make up as many places as you would at a track like Austria, let's say, that has a sprint race. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how people cope with it, and I think one-shot qualifying here is way more important for this sprint race than it will be at other sprint rounds we run this season.
Yeah, there are many drivers that have not had good qualifying, so maybe they're putting a bit of practice to this track, and knowing the fact that Hungary is the home of the Iron Curtain, it's known for rain. I had rain there last night towards the end of my race and in qualifying, so it's more than guaranteed that we could see rain here today, but you never know, it could be dry. I believe it was dry last season. So we are on the grid at the moment, and it is a nice sunny afternoon here in the Hungary. Here's a bit of information about the track before we get going then. So, well, first held in Formula 1 quite some time ago, home of the Iron Curtain, like I was saying. Interesting track, to tell you the truth. Is a high downforce circuit, a lot of tight and twisty corners. It was used in Formula 1. 1986 it started racing here as well. The first and only race in Eastern Europe, believe it or not, which is quite surprising as well. An estimated 200,000 fans visit here as well. It's located in a valley as well, so you can see quite a lot of the circuit. 4.381 kilometres long, the third shortest Formula 1 circuit on the current calendar. Like you were saying earlier, the reason why overtaking is so difficult because of the tight layout of this circuit, and we haven't seen many people win from outside the top few positions, but we'll see. Everyone, I think, will surprise us, not gonna lie. We've seen Esteban Ocon secure his maiden victory here, I think a couple of years ago as well, and there's quite a few other people did well. George Russell got his first pole here as well, and Damon Hill won his first win, 1993. That's a race win I definitely remember. Hungary is usually a place where people get maiden wins, but we'll see what happens. Some interesting facts to tell you the truth. And as the drivers are now readied up, we can get going soon.
Yeah, we can get going in the next 25 seconds or so. But yeah, I think Hungary always gets this reputation for being really difficult to overtake on. But actually, if you think about it, especially across the turbo hybrid era, a lot of the highlights of the season have been Hungary. I remember the 2014 and the 2015 races were absolutely mega races. So Hungary gets a bad rap. I think it's a great track for racing.
Okay then, so let's follow someone on board a lap around the Hungaroring today as the timer hits 0. Here we go, as it is quite overcast at this moment in time. Let's go on board with Petrodax because otherwise it'll be hard to find someone. So turn number 1, fair few corners that can catch you out. Turn 1 is one of those corners, and you'll be heading towards the right of the track in preparation for turn 2. Once at the apex, start to apply a small amount of throttle to push your car through this turn. Turn 3, a very fast kink right, full throttle through here as well. Then drift over to the right hand side, heading towards turn 4. Corner is very, very fast, and if you miss that apex, it's going to be very tricky. Turn 5, another corner where it's a late apex as well. Not much of a reference point to brake. You may want to adjust your brake bias through turn 6 and 7. A very tricky double chicane, not as tricky as some previous F1 games. They made it a lot easier past through 8 and 9. Heading towards turn 10, another full throttle kink coming up. This is a corner where we've seen quite a few people invalidate. I wonder if Petrodax was one of those people. Somehow he got away with it, which was surprising. The sun is very blinding at the moment here in Hungary. Heading towards the final few corners, you need to have a lot of steering input through there, past the pit straight, and then you get to pass the final DRS zone. He's currently P11 at the moment, and a driver who didn't do as well last week currently sits fastest, 118.5 with Yarham in P6. Cam must have struggled in qualifying because he's only P14.
Yeah, only P14, which is a real shame for him. Another driver that had a shame in that qualifying was Speed Iceman. It's fastest first sector of anybody for Speed Iceman, and then he spun it in the middle part of the lap. So Speed Iceman was on for a good run. He will finish down in 16th and will start on the back row of the sprint race. But yeah, great qualifying lap from Tam to put himself, well, over 0.4 of a second clear of Yarham at the front of the field. That is a really, really strong result. And after disappointment last time out in Spain, that is definitely the bounce back he will want coming into this round as well. And he's definitely asserting himself as well on top of that as the lead Williams driver now, isn't he?
Yep, he is, and he's got a big gap between himself and Jinx. We'll go through the standings in just a moment, but the Scotsman of Tam, well, he is on pole with Yarham in second. Yarham is definitely having a better season in the Alpine. It's not like the Yarham we saw last season. He's definitely got used to the game. He finishes more races and he gets more points. So he scored a lot more points, I think, than he did throughout his whole season. So that's just showing how good of a driver he is this season. Luke will be starting in third in the sprint. Now we got Charlie Harris in fourth. Mata had a great qualifying in fifth position. Only 6 tenths off of pole. Finley in sixth. Vates also had a good qualifying, 7th. He wanted pole because I think he got pole in the sprint race last time out in Austria, but things happen and he got punted into an incident, so maybe starting 7th may not be too bad. Keza in 8th, Jinx 9th, Tech 31 racing in 10th. Then we got Petrodax, Kieran, Knighton, Cam, Simon Palmer, Iceman, and Ewan. 17 drivers today. Only one invalidation. At least Cam, Simon, and Iceman managed to get some laps anyway. And I don't know why the countdown is not happening on my screen. Hopefully we can get that happening soon. But yeah, we've seen some few surprises, but we are seeing the people that we expect to be at the front, near the front. Apart from Cam, Jinx only in 9th position. Keza in 8th, I'm sure you'll be happy with that. But yeah, I think Ewan, is going to have the toughest task of all because he was the only driver not to set a valid lap.
Yeah, a bit of a shame there for Ewan as well to see him down there because he's had a couple of kind of strong performances this season. Of course, he DNF last time out, wasn't here round 3, but you think back to the second round of the season, he got a 4th place finish in the second round of the season. He had a really, really good run there. So he's got the pace as Ewan, but yeah, a bit of a mistake there at a track that is really difficult to overtake. That's, of course, not what he's going to want going into this one, but obviously sprint opportunity to make up some of those places. And I think this is one of those tracks as well where that we tend to see a little bit of carnage on lap 1. I think because people know that this is a difficult track to overtake on, that people try and get the moves done in turn 1 and 2 on the opening lap, and we often see incidents, especially at turn 2, because it is an off-camber corner where the faster line really should be around the outside of that corner, but you can sometimes, of course, get stuck on the inside. And I think it being a sprint race is just going to put more impetus on people trying to make as many places as quickly as they possibly can. And Jinx is a little bit of an interesting one in that qualifying session. I was watching him through that lap. He was up there running inside the top 3 or 4 in the lap times coming through the lap, but then I think he must have made a mistake somewhere in the final sector, because he fell from what I was initially expecting to be about 3rd or 4th on the grid to 9th. So yeah, I think maybe a mistake in the final sector from Jinx has cost him a few places there.
And I think since it's a track where it's prone to spinning as well due to the people getting so much heat into their tyres, I think that may be why. Maybe the pressure was too high on their tyres as well, something to keep an eye on when it comes to the race. We got to talk about the standings now before we head to the race, as Jinx currently sitting there on 83 points, Tam in 2nd on 65, and we have Charlie Harris in 3rd on 59, and we've got Yarham in 4th, Cam in 5th, Casper 6th, Luke in 7th, GMAC, one of our reserves, in 8th, he's not reserving tonight, Massa in 9th on 23 points, and Keza in 10th position in the standings. And that leads me perfectly to go into the formation lap, and obviously it's going to be either mediums or hards. I don't think I see any softs on any of the garages. I don't think it allows you to pick softs in sprints, does it? I don't even know. But anyway, if I were them, starting on the mediums will probably be the easiest thing to do. And they are starting on mediums. There we go. The first race where we got people on the same strategy.
Yeah, everybody on the same strategy in the sprint. Not a surprise, really. The hard tyres are too slow in comparison to the mediums, and the softs only last about, 5 or 6 laps maybe around Budapest before they completely go off a cliff. I mean, we've talked in abundance already about tyre heating issues, and yeah, the last thing you want to do is put yourself on softs on a track like this. So yeah, not a surprise to see nobody take the gamble. I think if it was a shorter sprint race, then they would, or a different circuit, but just not here. It's just not worth it at a track like this. So yeah, they will all start on the medium compound tyres, so everybody's on a level playing field, and it'll be interesting to see who's maybe not had the best qualifying and can find their way forwards, or if anybody's had a stellar qualifying but actually is maybe a little bit over representative of their pace and may drop backwards. It'll be interesting to see what they can do. So yeah, got to keep an eye on the front row, see how they get off, and I think got to keep an eye on Luke as well. Luke will definitely be an interesting one. He's steadily improving as the season goes on, and he's obviously got to try and act as some sort of help to his teammate, of course. That he's in the fight, of course, with his teammate in the manufacturer's title, so Luke will definitely be an interesting one to watch off the line.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the manufacturer's title is going to be something to watch out for as well, because we've got the fight between Mercedes and Williams as well. Ferrari is starting to come into the fray as well, with Mata scoring some decent points as well. And I'm already seeing a few people pushing it in the formation lap. I think one of the Ferraris is one of them, and then there's everybody else trying to keep it slow and content at the moment. So I wonder if Tam is going to be the one that will hold the field up and warm everyone's tyres, because the more you're going to be on the grid, the more cold your tyres are going to be. So for Tam's sake, he's got to hope that everybody will go on to the grid quicker. As a spin from an Aston Martin driver to be expected to warm their tyres up. So is the Williams. If I would have done that, I would have been disqualified. But we're about to get underway. 12 laps await our drivers here today for the sprint to decide the race order for the 50%. Top 8 score points in the sprint. We will see which 8 are made of the right stuff today and which drivers will need to work harder then. As the 5 red lights are coming up on your screen. Tam on pole, Yarham alongside, and we are underway. And it's a weird camera angle, so it's very weird to see on who's going to get the best start. But Tam's got a really decent start over Yarham. We'll see how Luke does as everyone makes their way through the field right now. 2 of the Ferraris making a good getaway as well. Charlie Harris up into 3rd. Mata down into 6th position. Finley down the inside of Luke then as they make their way towards turn 2. Everyone makes it clean off the start, which is great to see. A lot of pushing and shoving though through turns 2 and 3 as I just jigged someone right there. As Keda's had a bit of a spin. Petra has had a bit of a spin as well. So has Knighton, who's pretty much, I think, careful ghosting. Thank goodness ghosting is on. But the back few have had a few struggles from P1 to P13. Looks like everything is A-OK at the moment. Some people are breaking free, but Tam's still holding on to the lead. This is a good start to his race so far.
Yeah, really good start. Tam and Yarham absolutely flew off the line. They had amazing starts. The 2nd and 3rd row didn't really get going. They all kind of had poor starts, and that's allowed Finley to have a good start. He's up to P5 in the other Alpine, so Finley off to a good start in this race as well. Charlie Harris then in third as he is in the championship, managed to get ahead of Luke on that opening lap. And as I predicted, turn 2 was the pinch point. Jinx got rear-ended by somebody into turn number 2. I didn't quite see who it was, but he was spun all the way around, unfortunately. Knighton spun in sympathy on the exit of the corner. Petrodax was another one that spun early in the corner as well, so definitely a lot of claimers there as Simon Palmer's into the pit lane. So I wouldn't be surprised if Simon Palmer was involved in at least one of those incidents with either Petrodax or Jinx. Jinx has managed to get away with no damage, but he is now completely off the back of this train. As up just further forwards, Cam is on a bit of a charge after a poor qualifying. Qualified 14th, already up to 8th. He's going to go around the outside of Kieran into turn 2, and he gets the move done. So the Williams driver, a poor qualifying, but he's already working his way forwards.
That is great to see. I don't see that many overtakes around Hungary in general, so maybe it just shows how Cam is not as good as qualifying around here, but very good in a race. It's a shame that Simon Palmer is not doing too well around here, because he was speaking to me before the race and he said that his setup was very good, and he found the track very nice to drive as well. He found his teammate very confident as well, and he thought sacrificing a bit of his quality time will be better, but it doesn't look like it worked out at the moment. And yellow flag, that is Luke out of the sprint race. He has binned it on the right hand side of turn 11, and we got a VSC, I believe, so I don't see any yellow dots. Virtual safety car that neutralises the field just a little bit. No pit stops, remember, in the sprint race, so they can they're going to have to stay out. But will someone at the back go bold and maybe chuck a bit of softs on? I doubt it, because I did a race where the softs only last 5 or 6 laps optimally. So, yeah, you don't want to be getting on the softs this early on. But, well, it just neutralises the field a bit more. And we'll see what these drivers can do with the VSC now enabled. No safety car, though. So, it is a shame for Luke, though. Only the one that sold Mercedes at the moment, a Jinx in 11th.
Yeah, only the one saw, like you say, in 11th. He's starting to work his way back forwards again after that earlier incident on lap 1. But yeah, that's a real shame for Luke. We're kind of hyping him up before the start of the sprint race, and he's gone and crashed it, which is a real shame from P4 as well. Was in a good position, so shame to see. But turn 11 is going to be a bit of a talking point for tonight. It is a very difficult corner. It's high speed all the way through. It's easy to get a track limits warning. If you're overstepping the mark or your tyres are hot, it is another corner that's going to be specifically hard on tyres as well. So not a surprise to see turn number 11 as one of those corners that's going to catch out a lot of drivers. And I don't think it'll be the last time we talk about turn number 11 tonight either, as we get going again. And Juan and Keza have both sped on the VSC restart, 10th and 13th. That is a real shame for the pair of them, but that is an instant drive-through penalty. And yeah, I guess just trying to make up too much time on the VSC restart, trying to get as close as they can possibly to the Delta, and they've just overstepped it slightly.
That is a shame as well, and to be honest, this is a track also where the Delta can go at you very quickly. You could be well in the greens at one point, then right in the reds another point, so maybe that could be the case. Ewan, though, has to serve his drive-through right now. He wants to get out of the way, so is Keds as well. They're going to fall right round the field. Someone has just spun. That is the other Mercedes, a Jinx, so both Mercedes not doing too well, which is a bit of a shame, because Mercedes done very well in real life around here, so let's hope Jinx can fight back at the moment. DRS is activated, by the way, and Cam looking agonisingly close on the back of Vatesy. Same with Vatesy on the back of Mata. So we could see a three-way car fight for 5th position. Mata being the lead of that DRS train. So we'll see who's made the right stuff today as well. There's a few people with clear air as well. Finley has lost some DRS to Charlie Harris, but Charlie Harris has lost some DRS to Yarham. He's just got it back in a few places. There's not many DRS zones around here, luckily, so they have plenty of opportunity to gain that under 1 second back in order to get within that DRS zone. So positions gained throughout this race. I have to say Cam obviously up 7, he's gained the most. The biggest loser are the ones who have started. Keza down 5 positions. Kieran has had a good race so far. He's up to 8. He's also chasing on the back of this train as well. Our reigning champion from last season. He's not got used to the game on pad as much as I would have thought, because obviously he moved to pad because his wheel was broken. But I am starting to feel like this is the pace that I'm used to seeing from him, and maybe he can fight back soon. But yeah, I think if Cam, Vatesy and Matt start to squabble a little bit, Kieran can go right back in this and get in this fight. But unsurprisingly, not much has happened, and someone has spun, as I said that, Petrodax into turn 2. I don't think we're going to see the last of that tonight.
Yeah, we're already seeing a lot of people struggle on tyres. We're only 5 laps into this race, and a lot of people are spinning as we've got another spin, and that's Waitsy that spun this time around from P6. That is such a shame for Waitsy, who was having a really good sprint race, but he's put the car in the wall and has damaged his front wing at turn 4. Another corner that's going to catch out a lot of drivers, and yeah, the next person to fall foul of that corner. It feels like everybody's at this point has had a moment apart from our top 5. The top 5 have played it very safe and have been very calm so far. Everybody else behind has had something go wrong either in the sprint, in the one-shot qualifying or in the sprint so far. It's been a bit of a messy start to this race, unfortunately. So hopefully these guys can learn and take through into the feature race a bit more experience of this circuit. But at the front, lap 5 of this race, DRS is enabled. Yarham's keeping just within DRS range of our race leader, but he has got half the ERS that Tam has, so you can definitely tell Tam is not pushing to his full extremities. They are dropping Charlie Harris at the moment as well, and Charlie Harris is safe at the moment to Finley behind, but Finley is within DRS range, so if Finley can get any closer to Charlie Harris and start to challenge towards the end, then we could potentially see a double Alpine podium here, and that would be very interesting, especially, of course, that would be interesting for the title race in the manufacturers if we could get another manufacturer in and amongst the fight at the front of the manufacturers title as well, along with Mercedes and Williams. So yeah, definitely be interesting to see what they can do, but they're kind of just clinging on to DRS at the moment. They're not really close enough, and behind they're dropping Mata in 5th. So Mata looks comfortable in 5th. Cam is the next person behind him, but you've got to say Cam at the moment, he's got very low ERS. I think he's maybe pushed quite hard at the start to gain as many places as possible, and now he's in a little bit of a cool down recovery phase.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it, as he's struggling to find a bit of grip in these later stages of the race. But yeah, I think once you get within that 10% range, that is when you start to lose power in the battery, and the straight line speed is not very good at all. So Cam is not in a good position at all. Mata, though, is in a much better position, but he's on 24. I'm seeing a lot of people burning through their ERS very quickly. One driver that's not done so, though, is Finley. He's got 43%, so he could use that battery to start closing in on Charlie Harris. But he's just not using it. He feels like he's got the straight line speed to do it without the need of ERS. And once he gets a few temps back, once he can line up and overtake, that's when he can use his overtake button. So very, very, very smart from Finley to be able to have enough ERS until the end of the race. Yarham's on 22%. Tam, unsurprisingly, well, he's at the front and he's hardly using any. He's gone 75. The ones at the back are not using much either because they've got some track to themselves. We've got Petrodax and Jinx, who've had their own troubles recently in the race. They're in a squabble and they're around about in the same ERS as well. So the ones who are in battles, they're using up quite a lot. The ones who are in clean air, they're not using much at all, as it will be interesting to see. But I'm not sure if fastest lap point happen in this league in sprint races. I will have to double check at the moment as Jinx and Dax go for a move, as Dax has gone for a spin before that safety car. Oh,
interesting. Very interesting. That'll be because Petrodax is missing his front wing, so that'll be for the debris on the inside of the corner. But yeah, safety car. Does anybody decide to pit maybe for a set of soft compound tyres? I think Charlie Harris is trying to bait somebody in there to the pit lane, but no takers as of yet, apart from Mata and Cam are both into the pit lane. Does Kieran come in? No, Kieran stays out. Tech 31 is into the pit lane as well. So I think for the likes of Mata and Cam, that makes sense. Realistically, on track, they were only going to lose a few places to Kieran and Tech 31 if they didn't pit, but everybody else behind, they're going to stay in front of. So for Cam and Mata, it was kind of a no-brainer to make that call and come in and put a set of soft compound tyres on if they can keep track position. I think their only problem now is Jinx, but Jinx has to stick to the Delta, and I think he's just going to come out potentially behind here. It's going to be very close when they get to the safety car line, but I think Cam has potentially just been able to hold on to that. He has. So Mata and Cam in for a fresh set of sauce, and they've only lost a place to Kieran, so that's actually worked out quite nicely in their favour.
That really has as well, and to be honest, looking at the pit lane loss, is not much around here compared to other circuits, so Cam doing a nice job not losing that much positions. I'm quite surprised, well, the ones near the back, obviously, they're not going to lose that much by pitting, so they're pitting. I'm surprised Jinx and Ewan are not going to come in. They're going to be the ones in the most trouble because they're going to be in a soft sandwich with the likes of Cam and Mata and then the guys behind as well. I'm surprised that Speed Knighton is not in the box either, so I think the ones who are in that mid-pack that are still on the mediums are going to struggle. But the top 5 staying on the medium tyres, I think is the right thing to do, the right call. They can use themselves as a buffer to make sure the softs do not get past. And ideally, they're around about 7/10 slower than the soft, but at least they can last a bit longer and they can push throughout the whole race. But Tam has got a lot of pressure. He was hoping not to have that safety car today. Yarham will get a chance to get his first win in a while. Charlie Harris as well is good around here. Finley, I don't think he's won a race before, so would he get his first maiden win in the sprint race and start on pole for the feature race? We'll have to wait and see. But as the field bunches up, I think this could go either way, I think. And it's a good chance, I think, for everybody to get back in this. The ones who just pitted, they could save a bit of their mediums if someone's gone off. Who's that?
Jinx has just slammed straight into the back of Cam down the pit straight.
Oh, front wing.
Yeah, they were kind of speeding up and slowing down on the pit straight, trying to warm up their tyres, and Jinx, I think, hasn't recognised it and has just slammed straight into the back of the Williams. So Jinx with no front wing, and I don't know if Cam's potentially picked up some floor or rear wing damage with that. I would be surprised if he hasn't picked up anything, because that was a fairly hefty whack. So yeah, that was a bit of a silly incident. They almost all came to blows just before turn 14 because they were all speeding up and slowing down so much, and now they've done that again down the pit straight, and it's caught out.
Yeah, I've noticed in Hungary, when there's safety cars, there's always people that go a little bit too close to each other. I've experienced it when I was racing, I experienced it when I was commentating. I don't get why they just don't leave enough space to have the formation. They should, because if they leave too little space, if people brake suddenly because they're going too fast, it's going to cause a concertina effect to the ones behind. And that's going to make the safety car restart a little bit more interesting. And it could get investigated by the stewards. We're just waiting for Speed 910 to catch up to the rest of the pack. And then hopefully the safety car should be in. And yes, it is. We've got a few laps of green flag racing. And I believe that the DRS will come out on the final lap. So it's going to get very tasty indeed. We've got a Williams who's going to lead the field away, and he's very keen to get underway very quickly. I thought he was going to accelerate on the throttle very quickly, but he's not. But it will be interesting to see when he's going to go. We'll see what he can do, Tam and Yarham. Charlie Harris in a good position as well. Watch out for the leading soft runners. I'm going to watch out for Cam in this restart as well. We'll see if he can get the restart of dreams as well, as Jinx, unsurprisingly, goes into the pits.
Yeah, into the pit lane for Jinx, not a surprise. Like you say, we've got side-by-side already. Cam and Tech 31 were side-by-side there. I think Cam's had a bit of a poor restart, but yeah, Tech 31 right behind there. Matta's going to be interested on these soft compound tyres. We know what Matta's like. He's not going to take any unnecessary risks, but can he see if he can get further up the field for the start of the feature race, and what can he do? But there's not going to be that much of a pace difference between the softs and the mediums. The mediums are only 7 laps older. They're not really at the end of their tyre life yet, so it's going to be difficult for Matta to go for these moves without taking some sort of risk. So we'll keep an eye on what the soft runners can do, but at the moment they've not made any progress. Finley's got a time penalty there, unfortunately, for cutting turn 4, so that's going to drop in quite a few places for the grid for the feature race, as well as we've also had a spinner. I think that was Jewin that had a spin.
Yes, I think it was. I don't know, actually, because I think everyone was a little bit further behind. I think a few people... Oh, Jinx is a lap down, that's probably why. Oh, Cam has been overtaken by Tech 31 Racing once again in the hardest part of the circuit past turn 11 then. So I think Cam is struggling. Has Matta down the inside of Gearan into the penultimate few corners. Matta's up to 5th then, so he's cleared away one of the medium runners. Surely he's going to clear some of the other medium runners as well, as Kieran has spun. Oh, that is a shame for Kieran. He was having such a good race. Excuse me. He was having such a good race at the moment, but he's now not going to score any points in the sprint race, and he's going to be starting near the back in the feature race as well, and that is not ideal whatsoever. Tam and Yarham really doing well to hold on to their lead. Vatey trying to go down the inside of Cam, but Cam not giving too much room. But this is going to be side-by-side action to the death as we're on the penultimate lap of this sprint race. They were saving their ERS, but now they can start burning through. Turn number 4 they go then. Cam decides to not take too many risks on that one. We've got a massive DRS train from Vatey all the way down to like Speed Knighton. Speed Knighton's back in this race, by the way. This is all for the fight for the last point in the sprint race. Simon Palmer managed to go down the inside of Iceman, so did his teammate Pete then. So a lot of moves being made in the background. Can Matta get past Finley? Oh, someone's gone off. I think that was Petrodats and Cam. Cam struggling a little bit again as well, as I spent, and both the Aston Martins have got past him. There's a lot of action happening in the final few rounds. I'm very glad. Oh, Cam's had a spin. That is a shame. That is a shame. That is the one to keep an eye on the restart, but all it took was a safety car to spice things up for the final lap of this race, and the DRS enabled. Here's a chance for Mata to go down the inside of Finley into turn number 1. Can he make it? That was a beautiful line for Mata. I doubt he's going to have DRS though going in towards turn 2, so Finley's chance could be here. Nope, he's not going to get past Mata at this stage, and Mata's right behind his teammate now.
Yeah, right behind his teammate on the final lap. I don't know if he'll take the risk and go for the move, but either way, he's up to 4th, which is a good move for Mata in this race. Jinx gets the fastest lap at the back. Cam, I think, by the way, was really struggling with some rear end damage after that contact with Jinx under the safety car. That car was all over the place. It was sliding the rear of that car, so there must be some floor damage or rear wing damage on the back of that, or diffuser damage on the back of that Williams, because you see him in any sort of medium speed corner, he is just sliding all over the place. So yeah, definitely some damage on that Williams, and he kind of lost the rear of the car in the middle of the corner, and Petrodax had no time to react, which is why he ended up crashing into the back, which is a real shame. But they've fallen back down to the back of the field. Cam had worked his way forwards nicely and has dropped all the way back to where he started this race, which is a real shame. But his teammate Tam is around in the final few corners now.
Yes, indeed. Tam, we started this race on pole. There's yellow flags in the background, but that was for you and I expect. But Tam, who struggled last week in Spain, is going to start his night with a bang then. He starts on pole for the sprint race. He gets maximum points in the sprint as well. Johan has a good race in 2nd. Charlie Harris in 3rd. Mata, what a very good race for him. Him pitting onto the sock compound of tyres paid off. So it's Tech 31 racing. Good job by the pair of them. Finley, unfortunately, down into 6th place. I had a feeling he was going to struggle on those mediums. Vatesy in 7th. Great result for him. To the Red Bulls in 8th and 9th. Sure, they wanted 6th and 7th, but it's definitely higher than they were in qualifying, so they'll take it. 81,000 separates Speed Knighton and Simon Palmer. That is, I have to say, the closest battle we have seen, but it may be down to penalties. But Tam then, I guess he forgot what happened last week, which is always great to see that he forgot last week. He did a George Russell, basically. He got his first win, but it's not really a win. It's a sprint win. It's not really a Grand Prix win, but we'll see if he can replicate that in the race. I'm still going to call it as his first VSL win. He won a race, for goodness sake, so he gets maximum points. And Johan finishes in 2nd, and we've got the 2 Ferraris 3rd and 4th. They'll be on the 2nd row together. AlphaTauri's Tech 31 and Billy will be starting on the 4th row. The 5th row will be Ratey and Keza. Then 9th and 10th, Simon Palmer and Speed Knighton. Then we've got Kieran and Iceman in the road together in 11th and 12th. Cam and Dax 13th, 14th. Now that's going to be interesting. Then we got Jinx and Ewan on the road together. And then we have got Luke. We'll get the gaps as well, just so that those for stewards can look at it. Only one retirement of Luke, and I'm sure he would want a better race last time out. But starting last on the track like Hungary, I don't recommend that.
Yeah, I definitely don't recommend it, but I think if the sprint was anything to go by, then we could have a few safety cars, and by what I'm looking at on my screen right now, I think we are definitely going to get a few safety cars in this race. It's looking very interesting. So, yeah, I think starting at the back actually might not be too much of a worry here, because if the sprint is anything to go by, I think we could have a few safety car interventions, and Luke can benefit from those. But of course, he was the reason for one of the safety cars, one of the virtual ones, so he'll hopefully have to try and iron out those mistakes for this one. But yeah, definitely going to be an interesting race. There's a lot of people to look at for this one, but yeah, I think we can call that technically his first win for Tam, but I think if his pace in the sprint is anything to go by, he looks dead set on to have a really good race here in the feature as well. I think Johan really looked like the only driver that had the same pace as him that could match him, so I feel like in this race it could just be a fight between the two of them potentially for the win of this race.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I'm not going to spoil it, by the way, as to what we are about to experience here at VSL tonight, but someone did say in the chat, so I was kind of spoiled for that already. But I think it's going to be interesting feature race. I think it's 35 laps away our drivers. An easy one to stop, I think, for any of the drivers, but it will depend on what stuff is thrown. Actually, I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. I will spoil the weather, and you're probably wondering why we reacting like that. And it's absolutely chucking it down in Hungary. I did say Hungary is more than likely to have some rain. I think the drivers are going to absolutely hate me after this race because I said it was going to rain and it did. So, yeah, I think I'm seeing on the garages, it looks like it's full wet around this track as well. And I driven some wet practice yesterday, and luckily there was no full wet in the race. It was only inters. I struggle to get the car points on the straight line. It is that tricky on traction in the wet. So I feel for these drivers. Thank goodness I'm not the one in the cockpit right now. But yeah, I'm trying to remember if we had any wet races at all this season and what drivers to keep an eye on. But there's certain drivers that have done very well in the rain in the past, Cam being one of them, Charlie Harris as well. Obviously, we have quite a few new drivers. So we don't know what their pace is like in the wet. Maybe chance for people near the back of the standings to get themselves up the order because of the more experienced drivers, maybe because the more experienced drivers are probably used to VSL rain, and it does cause a few issues sometimes. But yes, a lot of standing water here in Hungary. Oh my goodness. So again, we're going to see one race where it's going to be complete the same strategy, and it's going to be a lot of spray. Turn 1's going to get interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely going to get very interesting. We thought it was difficult to overtake beforehand. It's now gotten even more difficult to overtake. And yeah, the start of this race, getting a good launch off the line could be incredibly crucial to your race here, especially if the weather stays like this. I'd be amazed if it stays full wet the whole race, but if it does stay heavy rain the whole time, then you'll need to get a good start. So yeah, definitely going to be interesting. I think this is probably one of the only tracks on this calendar where I'd say it would be very difficult to take a full set of wet tyres all the way to the end if the conditions allowed you to do so. So I think we're going to see most people doing one-stops in this race anyway, so that'll definitely be an interesting factor as well. And the wet tyre on this game is a bit of an interesting entity. I think in conditions like this, where it's absolutely chucking it down, there's loads of standing water, you of course have to be on the wet weather tyre. But the second those wet weather tyres start to get a little bit hot, you need to change to the intermediates, because they're just going to drop off in pace, and the intermediates can very quickly become 3 or 4 seconds a lap faster, especially if the intermediates can hold their temperature. So, and the one thing, of course, about the intermediates, or pitting for a set of intermediates, is that you don't actually have to worry about heating the tyres up, because they come out of the blankets, of course, at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 70 degrees centigrade, if I remember. And that is kind of the running temperature for a set of intermediate tyres anyway. So you don't really have to worry about warming them up. You can get straight on them and get straight to business. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see if there is a crossover point to the intermediates, who takes the gamble first. And if the field is close and someone towards the back or the middle of the field takes the gamble for the intermediates, they could benefit from it massively.
Yes, we're about to get underway. The spectators have got their umbrellas on. I think we've got our umbrellas on in the commentary box. To be fair, it was raining very hard this morning where I live. Same in the evening as well. So it's kind of replicating what I experienced in real life today. So maybe potentially that is the case for a lot of drivers. So we're waiting for Luke to make his way onto the grid. Has a lot of disqualifications because they can't see on the grid. So unsurprisingly, we're going to get a lot more people struggling on this start. So 5 red lights are on for the second time tonight. For the first time in the wet. Can Tam get a good restart this time? Oh, we got a lot of drive-through penalties for jumping the start. That's going to get chaotic. I think Billy was one of them, and so was Jinx. But Yarham trying to get a good start as well, but Tam getting a good getaway into turn number 1 as well. Could be a few contact into turn 1. Could be, I think, very chaotic, as the Aston Martin of Pete Knighton has had a very stonking start. He's up to 6th already, but there's a lot of damage from the cars near the background, as Matter was one of those drivers that got caught up in some collisions. He's now in turn 3 and he's got no front wing, and we have got a VSC because of that, unsurprisingly, because it's wet. But yeah, Tam and Yarham having a good restart as always, same with Charlie Harris. But I have to say, out of everybody, Speed Knighton had the best of restarts.
Yeah, Speed Knight, an amazing start there off the line for him. Brilliant stuff in the Aston Martin, up to P5 already. That's a brilliant start. I didn't see what happened to Matter. I don't know if he had contact or whether he just spun the tyres up and crashed on his own on the run down towards turn 2. But either way, that is such a shame. Matter had a really strong sprint race, was starting P4. And yeah, now down to the back of the field and going to have to change that front wing. If this fiercely stays out until after we've crossed the start-finish line, of course, Jinx and Finley won't be able to serve their drive-throughs. They have to serve it in green flag conditions. They can't serve it under any sort of safety cars. So they'll be hoping that probably that gets going as quickly as possible. But yeah, Finley and Jinx, if they're... Finley had a great sprint race. Jinx, a horrible sprint race, and he's capped off a horrible sprint race with a really poor start to the feature with that jump start. And he's actually going to almost run straight into the side of Speed Iceman and Simon Palmer as they run side by side further down the field. He's trying to gain a few places before his pit stop, before his drive-through penalty. Finley's already into the pit lane for his drive-through, so not a surprise there. And Jinx is in as well, so they're going to serve their speeding, jump start penalties. Tech 31 is also into the pit lane as well. I was expecting that that's going to be for a bit of damage. He was near Mata on the start, so I'm assuming that it'll be Mata and Tech 31 that have maybe made that contact on the opening lap.
Yeah, another driver that's also had a good restart as well, a good start, was Kieran as well. He's made quite a few positions, so great to see that he's made up 6th place as well. So maybe Kieran must have potentially went for the same line as Speed Knighton and probably thought, if I could go the same line as you, then maybe I can gain positions as well. And that kind of worked out. Or maybe he just took a different line and gained the same amount of positions too. So good job to the pair of them. But yeah, we're already starting to see some struggles near the back, which is a bit of a shame at the moment. But you can tell which drivers are more accustomed to the wet and which is not. Ewan's had a good start and so has Cam, so we'll keep an eye on those two as well. Massive shout out to Casper in the chat. He's not racing tonight, unfortunately. He's got other stuff that he's doing currently, but nice to see him in the chat supporting us. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully we'll see you in the racing track next week. I believe it's Portugal next week, so looking forward to that one. No DRS activated, by the way, in these wet conditions, so I think these drivers are going to have a difficult time trying to overtake each other around this racetrack. Hopefully that doesn't mean we won't see any racing at all, and hopefully we'll see some action, but you never know. We saw the field spread out in the sprint race and it was dry, but yeah, I just hope that we get to see some changeable conditions, because otherwise we could be in for spot or bother. I'm looking at people's ERS, by the way. They're not using it too much, unsurprisingly, because you don't burn as much in the wet conditions, which is great to see. Tam falling a gap to Yarham, 0.7 per second. Charlie Harrison third. The top 4 pretty much on a league of their own at the moment. Kieran not being able to close in on Speed Knighton, unfortunately, but he's got Ratesy, Keza and Cam for company. Keza, who's gained 1 position, he's having a good race so far as well, so great to see people making positions. Same with Luke as well, after starting at the back.
Yeah, nice to see people starting to work their way forwards, which is definitely good to see. And yeah, we're now going to start to see, as we get into this race, who has got maybe a wet setup, or who is more in tune with the wet conditions, and who's struggling a bit more, and who doesn't quite have the confidence in this part of the race. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting next few laps to see what they can do. We're going to have to try and keep an eye on the spots of rain, but it is still looking very, very heavy at the moment, so we'll wait and see what they can do, as Cam is all over the back of Keza in the middle part of the lap, trying to find a way through. Is he going to try and go around the outside of 10 into 11? He's not close enough to the Red Bull, but the Red Bull having to lift off through 10 to make sure he doesn't spin. I think just proving Keza's struggling a bit for grip in that car. Cam definitely a lot faster, but without the DRS it's going to be difficult to overtake. The good thing, like you mentioned though, because you don't use as much DRS in the wet, you can actually burn it a lot more down the straight and then save it up for the rest of the lap, because you don't actually use it for the rest of the lap. So you tend to see drivers use more ERS in this, but not actually see the depletion in battery levels. As just in front of this battle for P7, Waitsy is all over the back of Kieran for P5, and Waitsy's got a great run out of the final corner. Is he going to be close enough to the back of Kieran to maybe have a think about a run in towards turn number 1? He's in the slipstream. He's going to have to dive to the inside line to try and get this move done. He's going to go down the inside. Kieran doesn't defend the inside line. Waitsy sends it down the inside. I don't think Kieran's going to be able to do much about that one on the exit. No, he's not. Waitsy is through and into the top 5.
Very, very good. A lot better race I'm seeing at the moment, and I did say the ones near the back could be the ones that can shine a little bit, because we do not have long until obviously our first break, which will be in a couple of weeks' time, and if you're not performing well in the first half of the season, then your motivation really starts to go downhill a little bit. But I think Ratesy is definitely showing why he's very, very good in the wet, and I know in other leagues that I've seen him racing, he's brilliant around Hungary in the wet conditions, so unsurprising to see him up there at the moment. And obviously he had a good sprint race as well. He started in his position in that one, so Yeah, this is definitely the Ratesy that I know and love. I'm liking his racecraft at the moment, and he's not caught up in that much incidents at the moment, touch wood. And someone's gone off a little bit there. As,
it's Ratesy.
That is Ratesy. Oh, for goodness sake. Why do I have to jinx him? I'm sorry, Ratesy. But he's having a nice battle there with Ewan, who's made some brilliant plays off the restart as well. Down the inside, it's going to be free wide with Speed Iceman as well. But they leave a lot of space, actually, which is great to see. Ewan's going to try and go the long way around as well. Iceman right in the middle of this. This could get tasty through here as Ratesy trying to make his way through up to nearly where it was before. But he's still in that train, which is great to see. Who's going to make the jump first? We got Iceman to the inside as well of Ewan. That's allowing Ratesy to open the door a little bit. But Iceman definitely did what he needed to do there. He was like, thank you very much. He made a similar move, by the way, in Silverstone in round number 1. And that was one of the best moves of the season so far. So Iceman up to 8th position. Kieran, by the way, is getting past Keza, but for how much longer? Keza goes up the hill, heading towards turn number 4. And who said you can't overtake in Hungary? This is amazing stuff. And all it took is a wet weather sprinkle for it to be wet. I've seen in most other wet races for it to be dull. As yeah, I think I must have jinxed Ratesy because he's now down into 11th spot.
Yeah, real shame for Ratesy. Yeah, he had another moment there through turn 4 as well. We did slam the wall. I don't know if he's picked up any damage or not. I'd be amazed if he didn't. But yeah, he looked so strong on the back of Kieran, got past Kieran, and then immediately was all over the place. I'm not quite sure what was going on there, but that is a real shame for Ratesy, who's not had the best start to life in VSL in this season. It's not been a great start for him, unfortunately, as we've got Cam down the inside of Keza. Cam almost slamming into the side of the Red Bull there into turn number 12. They just about get away with it. He'll go the long way round 13 if he can hold the momentum around the outside, who have the better line for the final corner of 14. He's still side by side. I think Keza, though, may chop him off here on the entrance, and he does. Keza slides it into turn 14 and holds P6 for the time being, and Cam's going to lose the rear of the car through the final part of the corner, and that's going to allow Speed Iceman up another place. Speed Iceman is up 3 places in 2 laps, and now Simon Palmer going to try and demote Cam down another place here as Cam is going to be on the outside line. Simon Palmer's got the inside line in the Red Bull. He's going to go down the inside. Can Cam hold it round the outside? Not quite sure he can. I don't think he can. No, Simon Palmer is back through into 8th, and Cam is down to 9th. And every time Cam seems to look like he's going to attack to go up a place, he then immediately drops another couple, which is such a shame. Cam has got the pace to move forward, but he just keeps making these little errors and dropping further and further back. And one person I'm gutted about, by the way, right now is Mata. Very back of the field, last position, setting fastest laps of the race. But we may have a safety car here because Petrodax has just crashed, coming out of turn 3, and we do. So that is going to bring Mata and Tech 31 and Jinx right back into play in this race now.
I think those 3 will be very relieved that there's going to be a safety car. And don't forget, if the conditions stay like this, they do not have to make a pit stop. They can stay out for whatever they want. So a good chance for people that want to stay out to try and prolong those wet tyres. But I'm just looking at the track. There's not much standing water at the moment. There's still a bit of standing water, but maybe if some people still had some wets in their pocket, which they should do, they could go on to another set of wets which will last for a little bit longer. Or maybe they're thinking safety cars breed safety cars. Maybe they can pit a lot later. It is a big risk to play because you're not going to know what other drivers are going to do. Tam is in a huge disadvantage because he's up front. He's not going to know what guys behind him aren't going to do. The top 4 are staying out then. We're seeing Cam into the pits, unsurprisingly. He wants some fresh rubber to go for some moves. He feels like he'll be stronger there. He's the only one that's pitted so far. Luke stayed out. Ratesy is in. I'm not surprised he's in. So is Finley. Jinx. I am surprised that he's staying out. Tech. I won't be surprised if he goes in. He's moving to the left a little bit, or is he going to go in? Nope, he's not going in. We'll keep an eye on Mata now to see if he comes into the box. And the answer to that is no. And we got some risks being played here, Aiden. 3 drivers out of the 16 have gone on to a set of intermediate tyres. Is it too early?
It's hard to say. I mean, we did mention this earlier on that the intermediate tyres are, in terms of a race tyre, a much better tyre than the full wets, barring that there's not enough standing water on the track to warrant the intermediates a useless tyre. So, but at the moment, it still looks like full wet conditions. It's going to be interesting for the intermediate runners. The only thing I can think is they're preempting a weather change. I'm guessing that they think it's going to the rain's going to cool off a bit in the next few laps, and it's better to be on the intermediates now and gain the time by not making the pit stop in green flag conditions and suffering a little bit early on, but then gaining when everybody else has to pit for the intermediate conditions. That's my thought process. But just riding on board with Cam, that is not looking like intermediate conditions at all. He is all over the road, and it's only behind safety car conditions. So it definitely doesn't look like intermediate tyres at the moment. Like I said, the only guess I can make is they're preempting a change to intermediate conditions. But I think for the likes of Cam Waitsy and Finley, they're going to hope that change comes very quickly, because by the looks of things, it is nowhere near intermediate conditions yet.
Definitely not. It doesn't look like it. I think a lot of people are just going to struggle. But fair enough for people who want to take that risk right now. But if they take the wrong risk, they're going to end up spinning and potentially going into a wall. So I think there's going to be some issues. But let us know in chat, what would you do if you were in any of the driver's situations? To be honest, I don't have a clue. But personally, since it's chucking that hard, I would stay out for as long as I can, stretch those wets to a decent amount, and once I don't see any standing water, then that's the time I can go into the pits, because I think that would be the prime opportunity to do so. So lap number 8 then, perfect time to do a cheeky plug of our social. So if you want to follow us, at VSL_F1 for Twitter and Instagram, where we keep you up to date on what streams are live. And also, make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube. We stream every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and hit that notification bell. If you are new, safety cars should be in this lap, so everyone has pretty much caught up to the safety car. It's not the first time Tam is going to be leading the field away. He's probably going to get used to this at the moment, because he put himself there. He's got the car in front, and looking like he's going to score maximum points here today as well. Normal VSL points for the feature race, don't forget. And I think the one to keep an eye on again is Cam. I'm sorry to say this, but Cam is the one who's on the lead intermediate, so we'll keep an eye on that. Tam and Yaham as well. I know they may not be in the same team, but they seem to have the same pace all of a sudden as well. But safety car Aiden is in, and we're about to get some green flag running.
Yeah, about to get some green flag running. Like you said, it'll be interesting to see what these intermediate runners can do. But Finley almost spun under the safety car there at the back of the field, so I'm not confident in these intermediate tyres just yet. So I think they're going to struggle for the next few laps, and I would worry that they end up in a wall or in a spin and they end up losing the pit lane time loss they're going to lose anyway. So now just to keep a focus on Tam, and when he decides to go for the safety car restart, I imagine he's going to leave it fairly late, you would think. Or actually, no, he's going to go a little bit early here. He's gone just before the final corner, and he's gone when Yaham wasn't tucked right up behind his rear wing either. So he's given himself breathing space already before they get going. Speed Knighton's not had a good restart. He's 1.2 seconds off the back of Charlie Harris, so not a good restart. And just to prove that the intermediates aren't working, Tech 31 is already past Cam. I think Tech 31 almost wants to give that place back up again. He does, but he's done that after the safety car line anyway, so that's not going to make any difference. If Cam decides to report that Tech has overtaken too early, Matt is trying to get in on the act as well at the back of the field, as Cam, you can see, just cannot put the power down. He is sliding all over the place. Tech 31 is halfway down the straight by the time Cam can put the power down, and Matt is going to make him relegate another position. Matt is up into 13th. It's fair to say the intermediate tyres are definitely not ready.
Definitely not. I think they're only going to pray a safety car comes and the track gets lighter, which it doesn't look lighter at the moment. But it is a bit lighter than it was at the start, but it still looks very menacing. So if I were you, staying out was definitely the best option, as Iceman going down the inside of Kieran. That was very brave to just double chicane in the wet. So fair play to Iceman and Kieran there for keeping it clean. Iceman's up to 6th place at the moment. Definitely the man that I wanted to see out on track here today, who's currently sitting in P15 in the standings with only a handful of points. He scored some decent points in round 1, but hasn't scored that many points ever since. So this is a redemption race for him. Simon Palmer getting past Ewan. Oh, as Luke and Ewan having a bit of a squabble heading towards the final couple of corners then, as they trying to get some steering input into this corner with the traction, which is very hard, especially in the wet conditions, as I was saying. By the way, Aiden, Tam is falling away massively. 2.2 seconds. He sets the fastest lap, 1:32.9, which I have to say is pretty incredible, as Luke is going to try and go down the inside of Ewan. And I don't think he's going to go for it, but he does have the better line. He's not even using ERS, so it looks like he's a bit more comfortable to go for the move. So Luke gets past Ewan, up into 9th place. No other moves being made so far. It is quieting down now since the safety car restarts. I think people are just starting to get into a bit of a groove right now as to the feel for the track in these conditions. And that was almost contact between Kieran and Simon. That was close.
Yeah, that was very close. Unorthodox place to try and overtake as Simon Palmer tries to go for the switchback on Kieran. I think Luke ran into the back of him and is half spun coming out of turn 5. So just as Luke has made a place, he drops down a few places once again down to 13th. By the way, now is the time to start watching these intermediate runners because the rain has all of a sudden eased off. Big time. It is barely raining out on track at the moment. There's still some standing water on the circuit, but the fact that it's not raining means the track is now going to start drying up. We've got to now keep an eye on Cam and Finley and Waitsy here to see what kind of gap they can pull back on the runners in front, if they can pull any time back on them at the moment, as Jinx and Dewan now go side by side into turn number 12. Jinx will have the inside line for turn number 13. Can he get the move done on the AlphaTauri driver? Yes, he can. Jinx is through and into 9th position as into the pit lane comes Simon Palmer, and he is the first of our leaders who stayed out on that safety car restart to come in, which I don't think is a surprise. It is starting to look drier and drier as we go on. Cam and Finney still aren't fast really though, in comparison to the wet runners. They're still struggling for pace, but I think that will be more because they're trying to warm their tyres up now, whereas Simon Palmer will come out of the pit lane on nice hot intermediates, and they could be easier to hold into temperature. So Simon Palmer now be one to look out for to see what his gap is relative to the leaders, to see whether he's closing in or whether it's safer to stay out on the wets for a bit longer.
Yes, I'm liking this part of the race. I'm hoping this was going to happen because it's the person who makes the bold strategy first is the one that's going to do well in this race. And just look at the track. There's hardly any standing water right now. There's only a bit in sector 1, and it's starting to clear as the drivers are running away with it. But I'm looking at the gap now, and it's coming. It's hard to tell if it's the right tyre, because Simon Palmer is behind some intermediate runners. I think the only way we would find out is if Simon Palmer was behind, like, say, Luke. But he's not. You can see Cam closing in a little bit on Luke, but not by much. So maybe staying on the wets for a little bit longer might be the best move. But we'll see what the other drivers go do. Yarham is in the box as Tam stays out. Charlie stays out as well. Knighton is in the box as well as Keza. Iceman obviously had no option but to stay out because otherwise his team would lose time due to the double stack. Surely the ones who have pitted are all going to be onto the intermediate tyres. Kieran and Tetfe 1 Racing is in as well. Surely it's a tyre to be on, but we can only find out soon. Yarham is going to be the benchmark, I think, because he's got Luke in front of him. And if the gap starts coming down, we know it's going to be intermediate tyres, as you can see he's already fighting with Cam as well, who's been on those tyres for 5 laps. So this is going to be the true benchmark. I'm looking forward to this. 5.9 seconds. Will it come down? It is coming down quite a bit, so he is finding some pace, but we'll see.
We'll definitely see. I was actually looking at the lap times there. The problem here is that Cam doesn't seem to have any pace, whether it's intermediate tyres or not. He is dropping off the back of Luke quite substantially because Luke and Simon Palmer were matching sector times in Sector 2 and Sector 3. They weren't any slower or any faster than one another, so it's a fairly level playing field. But Cam was over a second slower than Luke in that final 2 sectors of that lap. So I don't know if Cam's got yet more damage on this car that we can't see, but for some reason in the wet conditions, Cam, you can see on board, if you go on board with Cam, he is all over the road. That car is sliding about all over the place, and Yarham is closing in on Luke now and is dropping Cam very quickly. So I think it's less of an intermediate problem for Cam and more the fact that Cam just seems to have absolutely no grip or pace whatsoever. He is really struggling on no matter what tyre he's on. He seems to be struggling for grip. So Cam maybe wasn't the right representative, but either way, it was definitely the right call to come in for intermediate tyres, as in come the leaders. Tam, Charlie and Iceman are all into the pit lane, as is Dewan. Jinx, interestingly, stays out. I'm not quite sure why Jinx is staying out. Maybe Jinx thinks he's going to stay out because maybe he thinks that those that have pitted for the intermediates now can't get to the end, and he's maybe going to go a little bit longer on these wet pit for the intermediates when he knows those tyres can make it to the end. But there you go, Simon Palmer, fastest lap of the race on the intermediates. It is now definitely intermediate conditions. The only problem for Jinx here is that if he does stay out until that position, and it's maybe in 5 or 6 laps time when it's time to pit and he knows he can get to the end on those intermediate tyres, those that are on the intermediate tyres may have already passed him by then, and that would mean that it wouldn't matter if he'd pit anyway, because he would still be pitting at the same time as those that maybe have to pit again. So yeah, it's a bold call from Jinx and Mata and Luke as well. Again, I don't know why Mercedes haven't split their strategies. We saw this in Miami, didn't we? Where Luke kind of stayed out to try and help his teammate. Of course, it did help his teammate in the end, him staying out. But by staying out, he completely ruined his own race. Completely ruined his own race. He had an easy podium on the cards, as Luke. And he ended up finishing, I think, down in 7th or 8th position at some point in that race. And I wonder if we're going to get a repeat of that again tonight. Jinx is leading, and Luke is now in 3rd, with Jinx's kind of only title rival for the season at the moment in Tam right behind. So I wouldn't be surprised if Luke is going to play rear gunner to Jinx again and sacrifice his own race to try and help his teammate.
Yes, I think that's probably why. And for Luke in Miami, it did not work out because it started off dry and it's wet, and it's going to be exactly the opposite around here as well. And he's losing so much time, and Mata has decided to, you know what, I'm going to lose out if I stay out. I'm going to pit. He's going to be near the back anyway, but at least he's not going to be that bad compared to the rest of the people that have stayed out. So here's him. And I have to say, I think it's pretty much the same order as we've seen at the start of the race for the ones who pitted. So the ones who stayed out longer were the ones that will benefit. As Speed Iceman has retired, not quite sure what's happened to him to cause him to retire in the pit lane. Rear wing damage? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. We'll find out from him in a moment. But yeah, that is a shame for Iceman for having such a good race so far. Both Aston Martins were having a good race, but he decided to call it a day.
Yeah, that's a real shame for Iceman, especially considering we had such a long amount of time to go in this race. It's kind of sad. Maybe he did have some damage that he can't fix, but yeah, that is a shame, unfortunately. So we're starting to see all the track limits penalties come into play now, aren't we? Kieran's got one. Finley's got another one, just like he did in the sprint race as well. We've got Keza with one as well. And yet some people have benefited and some people have lost in this whole pit stop phase. Finley is definitely one that has gained, despite his track limits penalty. He's now up into 6th, having run at the back after that first lap incident. So Finley is right back into play in this race now in P6, even if his tyres are a bit older. Same for Waitsy as well. He was spinning a lot on the full wets. He's back into the top 10 now. He's got no penalties. Then that gamble onto the intermediates has somewhat paid off for the Alfa Romeo driver as well. Cam is just continuing to fall further and further backwards. So I'm sure there is some sort of damage on that Williams that we can't see that is just costing him a lot of lap time at the moment, because he is just plummeting through the field. And I don't know what happened to Knighton in that pit stop phase, but he was running, of course, in a net P5 in this race, and he's now running 9th, which I'm a little bit confused by. I thought he was a lot closer to the back of the likes of Charlie Harris, but that seems to not be the case for some reason, and he's now further. He was actually running a net 4th, sorry, not a net 5th. He was running a net 4th right behind Charlie Harris, and he's now all of a sudden about 4 or 5 seconds off the back of the Ferrari. So I don't know if Knighton's made a mistake somewhere or been held up in the pit lane, but either way, both Aston Martins have had a rough time of it in this pit stop phase. Iceman's out, and Knighton has dropped all the way down to the bottom end of the points. So very interesting. As Tam has now caught the back of Luke, so now is the interesting point to see what Luke decides to do. And by the lines that Luke is driving, I think Luke is deliberately trying to hold Tam up here to try and help his teammate, because he is parking it in the middle of the road and not moving, and Tam is desperately trying to find a way around this Mercedes without crashing into him, almost as they're in turn 9. As they go through turn number 10, we'll see Luke back off again, I'm sure, in turn 11 to try and slow the Williams up, which he does. But ironically, as much as Luke is in the middle of the road trying to hold them up, they're actually catching Jinx, which is quite fun, which is quite ironic. Luke is trying desperately to hold up the Williams and Yahan now, who has now caught Tam, but they're inadvertently still catching Jinx for some reason. So I don't know if Jinx is just really struggling on these tyres. He must be, but Luke's attempts to hold them up are actually not working, as Tam does hit the back of Luke that time around in 14. I think Tam getting a little bit impatient there, and Luke trying to slow down as much as possible to hold him up. Tam's now going to try and get the run baby down into turn 1. Is he going to think about a dive bomb move? Yes, he is. That's a really late defensive move from Luke, and Tam, because Tam had to back out of it, he's been rear-ended by Yaham, and Yaham, I don't know if he's picked up any damage on that front wing. I think he has. Yes, he has. Luke's really late defensive move on Tam frightened Tam back to the outside, and Yaham was already breaking late. Yaham's broken his front wing, and I will not be surprised if Luke is investigating for that, because that is incredibly dangerous defensive driving there from the Mercedes driver.
I have to say, you don't really want to be defending like that in this league. I think it's very questionable on how you park it. To be honest, if you want to defend, do it like Fernando Alonso did in Hungary a couple of years ago. Don't do what Luke did. So, yeah, that's brought Charlie Harris into play as well, and Finley, who's all in this train. And they're all making contact as well, all because Luke is holding this field up. If these guys keep squabbling, Ratesy could be leading, which I have to say will be pretty incredible. Ratesy is very slowly catching up to this train. Cam's also back in this. Pete could get back into this race. So is Keza. So there is a danger that if Luke holds this field up, he's going to ruin his race. But I think what Luke is doing is to try and increase that gap to make sure Jinx will still come out ahead, but I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. That's a very weird strategy to do, and the track's drying out anyway. It's almost dry, and I doubt that the wets are the best tide to be on anyway. Here comes Tam now, trying to go down the inside. I think everyone has got to keep it cautious, I think, on this turn 1. Otherwise there could be incidents. 3 wide, by the way, between Charlie Harris, Tam and Finley. Nope, it's Johan. Finley right in the back. We've got 2 Alpines versus 1 Williams versus 1 Ferrari. As 1 Ferrari has now lost a few positions. Finley may try and come back here as well. 3 wide. Charlie Harris, out of nowhere, is your net race leader of the Hungarian Grand Prix. He's got to go for a brave move if he wants to make this one. And if he does, he can start chasing Jinx. And I think Charlie Harris played it cool. I spoke too soon. Charlie Harris has lost it. Tam's now your net leader as well. Tam gets past Finley once again. Finley is in this fight. Everyone just seems to be struggling. Yaham, bless him. He put no foot wrong the whole race long, even the sprint. Tam got a 5-second penalty for getting 1 place. I don't think he corner cutted at all, I don't think, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to keep an eye on, obviously, the race director. There's just a little bit of playing games, I think, going on at the moment. I don't think any of these drivers are liking that. And Luke, oh goodness, we thought Luke was going to pit, but he's just not.
No, Luke is really defending hard. He's almost brake checking this field now in the middle of corners to try and hold them back, and it's just getting ridiculous now, I think, honestly, as Tam's now going to try and go for the move around the outside of the Mercedes. Is going to try and outbrake him and go the long way round. I don't think Luke's going to be able to defend this one this time around. Tam should have this move done, but I think Tam may have some damage on that car after being rear-ended by Yaham in that incident, because he is sliding all over the place. So Tam is finally past Luke and up into 2nd position. Finley will be next to have a go at that Mercedes, but I understand what Luke is trying to do. I know he's trying to hold this field up to help his teammate out, but by the time Tam is through, Jinx has gained no time on these guys, and in fact Luke is just damaging the drivers behind. And again, look, he's just like braking very early in the middle of turn 5, and he's going to side wide. Cam's now through on Finley as Finley makes a mistake, and now Cam's going to try and get the move done on Luke, and Luke again defending into the chicane. Charlie Harris has somehow got himself back to the front of this queue once again as well, as he tries to work his way through. Tam's 5-second penalty may not be any worry for him anymore, because the rest of these drivers are being held up, but all of a sudden Cam is now into a potential net 2nd place.
No, he's not.
He's got brake checked into turn 11 by Luke. Cam's broken his front wing. Charlie Harris has broken his front wing. I think Waitsy's broken his front wing as well. Charlie Harris has gone and slammed into Luke on purpose.
Oh, huge pile-ups.
Yeah, he's gone and slammed into Luke on purpose, so Charlie Harris spun him out. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous driving from that whole field. Really ridiculous from Luke to be brake checking in the middle of a flat out corner. Of course, it's not flat out in the wet, but it's a high speed corner. You can't be braking into a corner like that. He's brake checked the field and damaged the drivers, and then Charlie Harris has intentionally spun him out. That is just ridiculous. Really ridiculous driving from all of them.
I think I have to agree with you, Dad. This is not what we want to see in VSL. I mean, come on, guys, just pick up the pace, drive a bit better as well. It's wet conditions. They've got to, even though they're driving like their life's depending on them, they've got to leave the space, as Fernando Alonso is saying. And these guys is just, they're just driving like there's no one there. I think that's what is the case at the moment. And I think this is allowing certain drivers. I think I have to say, the only one that's not put a foot wrong is Simon Palmer. Simon Palmer is driving cleanly, and he's reaping the rewards at the moment, up to third. Speed 9 almost got caught in this, but somehow he's gone back into this. Tam, I think, drove in a bit cleanly as well, but I think picked up some front wing damage along the way as well. But yeah, I agree with you. The driving standards have got to be a lot better. What is it with sprint races and wet weather which causes drama? Oh my goodness. I really just hope this picks back up, because I know the stewards are going to be very busy, and yeah, I do not want to be where the stewards are right now. They're going to have a busy few days. I won't be surprised if we have to report a few things ourselves. But if you are watching this back, guys, please think about your driving standards, because I think this seriously needs to improve for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a real shame, because, I mean, I kind of called that happening before it happened, unfortunately, because we saw Luke and obviously Jinx staying out on the wet tyres on a very clearly intermediate circuit. I can understand what they're trying to do, but well, to be fair, I don't really understand what they were trying to do, if I'm completely honest, because Jinx had no pace at all on those wet weather tyres, and even with Luke trying to hold up the pack and brake checking them, they still weren't pulling. Jinx wasn't pulling away, so I don't really understand what Jinx's strategy there was. Yes, he is on fresher intermediate tyres now, but that's only because he's only 6th because we've had a safety car. So it's almost like they were intentionally trying to cause a safety car without being the direct cause of it, which is a real shame, and they ended up being the direct cause of it. So it's a shame. It is a real shame, because you could call it before it happened, and then it happened. And yeah, we've seen Luke do it once before to good effect, of course, in Miami. It played off well for him in Miami, and that strategy worked. But around a track like this, on full wets, on a clearly intermediate track, on a track that's difficult to overtake, you can't be brake checking people and swiping people in braking zones on a track that's difficult to overtake in the wet as well. You're just going to cause an incident, and Luke's crazy defensive driving has ruined a lot of people's races. Charlie Harris, who looked like he could have been in contention for the win, is now at the back of the field and potentially with a report on his hands after that incident as well. Waitsy had recovered well. He's now at the back. Yarham was racing for a second place finish. He's inadvertently got damaged through no fault of his own as well. Cam's now down in 8th place as well through no fault of his own either. Tam has a 5-second penalty through no fault of his own either. So, yeah, Luke's
there are some drivers. There are some drivers that have not put a foot wrong, and their driving standards is great. I'm not saying all the driving standards is terrible. There's certain drivers that have done really well, and because of people driving badly, they have suffered the consequences from it. So don't worry, Tam and Yarham and all that lot, because a lot of drivers have driven cleanly in this race. It's just a few drivers just ruin it for the few, and safety car is in this lap. Tam's going to be leading the field away again. We didn't think he'll get to the front of the field, but he is going to. We can see the sun starting to pick up a bit. Clean slate now. We got 15 laps to go. Let's hope these drivers can drive a bit cleaner. With Luke out the picture now, maybe we can see some clean racing on our hands now.
Hopefully we can, yeah. The rest of Tam's race relies on him trying to gap this rest of this field as he now gets going for the safety car restart. Good restart from Tam. Yeah, the only way Tam now can win this race, I think, is to try and, well, is to hope that the likes of Simon Palmer and Speed 90 can hold up the pack behind, and he can gap them by 5 seconds before the end. So that is Tam's objective, to try and get his first feature win of the season. As further down the field, Cam down the inside of Kieran should get the move done, and he does. Cam, by the way, is reporting that he does have another broken rear wing for both races, so that is why Cam is struggling so much, as Jinx is running side by side with Tech 31. I think, no, actually, Tech 31 is running side by side with Matter, so Tech 31 round the outside gets the move done on Matter. Matter's going to be vulnerable to Jinx behind as well. I don't think Jinx is going to be close enough for turn 4 to make the move, but Tech 31 up into P4, and he's onto the back of Simon Palmer and Speed 90 now, and Simon Palmer taps the back of the Aston Martin ever so slightly, but they get away with it, and Tam is already 1.6 seconds up the road after half a lap.
Yeah, Tam absolutely loving life at the moment. If he could keep this up, he could go on to win this race, because we got a nice train forming as well, and everyone's on the same tyre as well. Everyone's pretty much been on those tyres for quite a bit. As Finley trying to go down the inside of Cam, I have to say, good move as well. He kept it clean as well up to 7th. This is more like it, guys. There we go. We're starting to see some good racing now, and probably because they're not all on tyres on the wets maybe as well. So this is a lot better, guys. Keep it up. Apologies, by the way, that I was ranting earlier, but at least I proved the point, and these drivers are racing cleanly now. So touch wood, as Finley is dropping a little bit at the moment, but 2.6 seconds over Pete at the moment. Simon Palmer looks like he's going to get a run on Pete very, very soon as well, heading towards turn 1, which he doesn't. You can start to see that a lot of people are just struggling for grip already, but not as much as earlier on. It's starting to get a lot lighter, and obviously the lighter the rain is, the more grip you get, and you know, they are struggling a little bit, but I can see people taking more curbs than usual as well, so that is always great to see. 2.6 seconds over Tam now, to Speed Night, and so yeah, Tam is in a league of his own right now, so the safety car has definitely helped him. Ewan's got a 3-second time penalty. That is a bit of a shame, and yeah, I think we're back to the normal standards that we used to, the better standards that we used to now. Charlie Harris is back up to 12th. With no fault of his own, he's going to try and fight for these points now, but he's doing a solid job with that.
Yeah, doing a solid job trying to work his way forwards. There's a few drivers with penalties in front, of course, that he can benefit from as well. So, yeah, definitely still things to gain for Charlie Harris in this race, of course, running third in the standings as it stands. And Tam is desperately trying to get that 5-second gap, isn't he? He's already 3 seconds up the road. He's looked so strong tonight in the dry and in the wet. And again, he's just pulling away in these wet conditions, and it's benefiting him quite nicely. I thought Knighton and Palmer, to be fair to them, considering the pace that we've seen from them so far tonight and throughout this race, throughout this season so far, I was expecting them to be a bit more under pressure from drivers behind, but they're not actually under that much pressure at the moment. The one that looks like making the most move forwards is Jinx. Sends a dive on Matter at turn number 1. I don't think he's going to get that move done. No, he doesn't. He's now under pressure from Finley. I was going to say Finley's the one making the moves here. He passed Cam a moment ago. He's now down the inside of Jinx into turn number 2. Can he get the move done on the Mercedes? He's still side by side. He'll have the outside line for 3. He makes contact with the Mercedes, and I think they just about get away with it. But Finley is up into 6th. Jinx is down into 7th. Further down the field, Yaham trying to get a move done on Cam as well, but can't quite get the move done into turn number 4. Yaham trying to recover, of course, from his incident earlier on, but not quite sure what's happened to Jinx. I don't know if Jinx has some sort of damage either, but he's on fresh intermediate tyres, but he's going backwards rather than forwards. So Jinx on the intermediate seems to be struggling quite a bit.
Yeah, he is right now, and maybe he's just not used to being battling for positions. He's maybe used to just maybe battling up front as well, and sometimes drivers are like that. They perform better when they're at the front, but you always have to perform good no matter where you are. Like, you've got to overtake anyway, and that's what Jinx obviously needs to learn. He is trying his best to gain what he's lost right now, but I'm almost certain that there's certain incidents that will be investigated, so he's going to have to drive like his life depends on it at the moment. Tam already pulling away once again. 127.6 is the fastest lap. We got some moves being made. One of them, I believe, is Finley on Matter going down the left-hand side into turn number 1 as well. Matt tries to cover off, but it does not work. Heading towards turn 2 then. Finley to the right-hand side, keeps to the right. Oh, that's very, very close. Matter with the switch back as they head towards turn 3. This is like Fernando Alonso versus Lewis Hamilton in 2021. But I have to say, this is looking very good. They're going up the hill now, heading towards T4. They're still in a position where they could go for the move. Matter holds his line, and I have to say, that is how you defend in Hungary. Brilliant job from Matter. Finley could get him here, but there's no point. Finley, I think, just playing the long game at the moment, only going for moves as he sees fit. That's more like it, lads. That is how you defend and attack very nicely around Hungary.
Yeah, that is a really good move there. That was really good racing from the pair of them. I think Finley here kind of desperate to get past Mata and the likes of Tech31 to try and get in some free air as he gets another penalty. That is such a shame for Finley, but you can tell he's trying to get into some clean air because Finley's got some good race pace here in clean air. He's a fast driver on those fresher intermediates. So if he can get in clean air, he can save himself a few places further down the field later on from the penalties. So that's why he's trying to get these moves done on Mata. He's just wasn't quite close enough the final time around as Tam, another fastest lap of the race, a 27.139. Tam is now 4.3 seconds up the road. He's only about a lap away from breaking that 5-second gap already, as now Charlie Harris sets the fastest lap of the race further down the field, which is kind of a shame to know that he's that far down. We know what kind of pace he can run, so out of position completely for Charlie Harris. Same for Yaham as well, who's playing the patient game with Cam in front, but you've got to think Yaham's got to try and get these moves done now if he wants to gain any more places and potentially finish inside the top 5 in this race. And yeah, Tech31 got the move done on Mata a few laps ago, and now he's just starting to hold up a little bit of trainer drivers behind him. And actually, Knighton and Palmer are pulling away from this train now as Yaham is going to get the move done around the outside of turn 4. Yes, he is, but he gets a penalty in the process.
Charlie Harris is spun!
Oh, Charlie Harris. That is such a shame for Charlie Harris. He was having a good recovery, but he's now spun. Still not over for him. There's still 11 laps to go in this race, but yeah, real shame for Charlie Harris. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires in the pit lane, unfortunately. But as I was saying before that, Tam leading, trying to get that 5-second gap, but Tech31's kind of lack of pace at the moment means that Speed Knighton and Simon Palmer here could end up on the podium, which would be great. It'd be both of their first podiums of the season. In fact, for Knighton, it would be the first time he scored points all season if he finished second here.
Wow.
So they're both having really, really good races, having avoided all the carnage early on.
I have to say, every time I see Pete do well around a track, it's definitely around Hungary. He likes this track, it has a nice flow to it, and he usually scores really well as well, and he usually has good battles with everybody. So, yeah, it's great to see him in his element at the moment. Obviously, he struggled a little bit in the sprint, fair enough, but he still managed to get a good result either way. Charlie Harris is retired from the race, and yeah, I always wanted to have sprint races where the unknowns, the underdogs, are performing well, and Knighton obviously 0 points going into this as well, and Simon Palmer not scoring as many points as he would have liked, and he'll be on for a third place as well. I'm looking forward to seeing these two fight, and I know with these two they fight quite nicely together, so I hope they can fight very cleanly as well. And Tech's managed to call up to the back of this train, so we've got a train from P2 now to P9. We're now down, we've now lost 4 drivers from this race. Charlie has unfortunately given up. Unsurprisingly, it's because of rear ring damage. I wouldn't want to be racing with rear ring damage around Hungary. I would keep spinning, so Charlie Harris has definitely done the right thing for retiring, because otherwise it will definitely be unsafe. That just leaves one at a Ferrari of Mata now to contend with. Tam, crucially, is now within pretty much clear of the 5 seconds. So as long as he doesn't get another penalty, his win is his, as long as he doesn't bin it.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't bin it, keeps it clean. He's still in a good position here as Jinx is into the pit lane. That's an interesting call. Not sure why. Is Johan fastest lap of the race now? Jinx is into the pit lane.
Surely not dries.
Yeah, he's gone mediums. Medium compound tyres. It's spitting with rain still. It's not stopped raining. It is a lot lighter than it was, but even if it has stopped raining, that's far too early. Far, far too early for a set of medium compound tyres for Jinx. I'm not sure why he's taken this gamble, if I'm completely honest, because he had a fairly solid spot inside the top 10 with drivers around him on penalties. He could have just followed them in, but it has now stopped raining officially. There's no rain falling on these cars, but either way, I feel like that is far too early of a pit stop for Jinx. We'll see what his tyres are like as he heads down towards turn 2, whether he's
losing grip, he's losing time, Aiden. He's crawling all over the place. Let's go on board with him. You can see that he's very tentative through turn 4. Usually you can go pretty much full throttle a lot earlier with the medium traction setting, and he's just not. He's just so tentative. Meanwhile, Yaham is having a much better comeback at the moment. Up to SIP, he's got past his teammate, so the Alpes take a bit of a fight there. It was 18 seconds a gap to Ewan. Now it's 23 seconds, so he's lost about 5-6 seconds just by pitting earlier. So there's some instances like in Hungary where there's some instances where it dries up pretty quickly, but it depends on what lobby you go on to. Kieran is going to, I think, do the same. What are these guys doing by pitting early? Sure, the only judgment I would get if they would pit early is if there was a safety car. Philly, oh no, Philly's gone for a spin. Another driver that was doing well, now he's dropped positions. But Kieran has gone for softs. Now, that is a better call because in these type of conditions, the best dry tire to be on is a set of softs. But will they may burn quite quickly. I don't know. It's definitely not enough. It's definitely not enough. I don't know what's in the minds of these drivers. Do they have like engineers or something?
I think they've seen that it's the rain has stopped falling and they've immediately come in expecting it to dry up quickly, and that's not the case. I mean, Jinx was 4 places ahead of Kieran before his pit stop, and he's now 8 seconds behind Kieran a lap later. So that just has got to prove it's not worked. It will get better as the race goes on, but they've lost too much at this point already. So yeah, really, really silly calls there from both of them. Tam's lead, by the way, is coming down. Knighton's now recatching Tam and is now only 4.3 seconds behind. So don't know if Tam's tyres are overheating slightly or if he's made a mistake somewhere or if Knighton has just started to find a groove a bit more. But Knighton's bringing the gap back down again to Tam, our race leader. Yeah, fastest lap of the race. It's actually Matter who sets the fastest lap of the race now, and now Cam with the brand damaged rear wing now sets the fastest lap of the race.
Racy, oh my goodness!
Yeah, the wet tyres are definitely getting better. Finney's into the pit lane.
No!
Oh my word, that is such a shame. From a comfortable second place finish, it was looking like he spun and damaged his front wing.
Oh, Pete!
That first points finish, I think he may have just fallen away once again.
That is a shame. That is a shame for Speed Knighton. He was on for the win. The win was his, I think, because he was catching, but he just lost it in turn 2. I think because the track temperatures were getting hot, that's maybe why, but so easy to do as well. He's going to be absolutely gutted with himself. To be honest, I'm heartbroken. I'm gutted because I always like underdogs doing well, and he's now down in 10th. So, to be fair, though, he's not going to lose that much, because there's drivers that are on completely the wrong tyre. So he may still get points out of all of this. It's not over for Speed Knighton, but it could have been so much more. And it is one of his favourite tracks as well, and that is a shame. But he's got to take something out of this. He's driven, I think he was one of the drivers today in the feature that's driven a superb job. His racecraft was brilliant, and everyone's starting to come in now. I still think it's too early personally, but I might be wrong. As everyone is coming in, so I wonder if Mark it's too early. It's too early. Tam is staying out, so is Tech, and so is Cam. They're all going on either mediums or softs.
I think softs is definitely the right call in these conditions. I mean, it's there's long enough left in the race that the softs will get to the end without any sort of tyre wear problems. I've been running a ball with Kieran the last lap. The softs are now starting to come into play, so yes. It is now, I think it's on the crossover point now, so it's starting to work a little bit more for the likes of Kieran. In fact, Kieran just set the fastest final sector of anybody, so it is definitely up there now as Cam now gets a time penalty. I don't know why Tam didn't pit that time around, if I'm completely honest, because Jinx fastest lap, there you go. It is now dry tyre conditions, because Tam now is going to get his lead slashed by Simon Palmer if he pits this lap, and that's going to leave Simon Palmer in the net win of this race all of a sudden from relative obscurity in the first 25 laps of this race. Simon Palmer's in the pound seat potentially to win it. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what Tam is going to do here. There's only 5 laps to go, but the last thing Tam needs to do here is stay out, because these tyres are going to burn out big time.
Yes.
And they'll puncture. He's into the pit lane. Okay, Tam is in. I feel like, though, he should have pitted a lap earlier. I feel like by going a lap longer here, he's wasted a few seconds, and Simon Palmer's now going to be within penalty range of him. Tech 31 is into the pits as well, as is Cam, so everybody will be onto the soft compound tyre, you would imagine. But all of a sudden, Simon Palmer, and potentially Matter as well, have thrown himself into a chance of winning this race. And we've got to remember that Matter was last at the start of this race after an early incident, of course, where he nearly went out of the race before we got to turn 2. So all of a sudden, Matter's back in this race conditions here as Tam leaves his pit box. And yeah, Simon Palmer's going to pass him, I think, here. Simon Palmer down the pit straight, round the outside. He's passed him.
Brilliant stuff.
Wow. Simon Palmer passed Tam. Tam, by waiting a lap longer, has lost a 6-second gap to Simon Palmer. And now Simon Palmer leads. But of course, Tam served that penalty in the pit lane. That is why he's lost that gap. Of course, just remember he's got to serve that 5 seconds in the pits, which he has done. So now it's a race between Tam and Simon Palmer on track for the win of this race.
Bring it on, bring it on. Welcome to VSL. We get to see a final scrap for the win in Hungary. When was the last time we seen that? As well as Ratesy, by the way. He's also back in this race. He's spun quite a few times. He got caught up in incidents, and he could be on a chance of a podium. Incredible scenes. And so we got one spinner, by the way. That was Kieran. He's dropped into 13th at the moment. So at the moment, it still looks like that Pete could get his first point of the season as Ewan has spun. That is a shame, a very big shame at the moment. We are starting to see some brave moves now. Let's hope there are some clean brave moves as Finley gets well, he's trying to have a battle with the ghosted Ewan. I believe Ewan has left the session, so Finley is trying to get past the AI, which is very difficult indeed. But let's jump back with a battle for this race win there. Tam is, you can tell Tam has too much pace compared to Simon. He goes the right hand side and he's taken a very deep line, but it's a perfect line. He covered him off. Tam is now your race leader. I think he's going to hold it. Simon could fight back here into turn 2. Maybe not. Yellow flag. That is for Jinx and Kieran. Tech and Kez are also having a fight as well. Same position. Kez are going the left-hand side into 4. Heading up the hill. Actually, we're not at turn 4 yet. We were to turn 3, but you know what I mean. But that's great stuff from Tech at the moment. Bearing in mind, though, look at these penalties. Finley's on 9 seconds. The ones on penalties are going to be a huge disadvantage. Ratesy, obviously, is not within 3 seconds yet, so he's not going to gain that much. But still, he's going to be 5th place. But surely he would have wanted higher. Look at the gap that Tam is pulling. With Tam pitting, and with it being a dry end to the race, that has saved his race.
It really has. It doesn't seem to matter what you've thrown at Tam today. He's dealt with it brilliantly and is still going to come home with a win by the looks of things. We've got 3 laps to go now when we cross the line. And yeah, even with all the incidents in the midpoint of the race with the Mercedes for Tam, 19 flat, easily the fastest lap of the race for Tam as well. All the incidents in the midpoint of the race, the wet weather to deal with, of course, the 5-second penalty for going off the track and overtaking, of course, as well. Another late safety car and a weather change onto these slicks and having to pass for the win. And a sprint race on top of that and a one-shot qualifying. Doesn't seem to matter what you throw at Tam tonight. Tam has got this in the bag. You wouldn't think that Tam hasn't won a race this season, would you? Because by this performance, you'd assume that he's won a lot of races this season, but he hasn't. He hasn't won anything yet. So at the moment, this is an amazing performance from Tam as he's about to lap Kieran, who's really struggling with some sort of damage on that.
He's got rear ring damage, I think. He's definitely got rear ring damage. He wouldn't be spinning like that without rear ring damage. And by the way, remember that race in Miami? He lost the win by 4 thousandths of a second. I believe, did he win on track? I can't remember.
He did, yeah. He did, yeah.
He did win on track, but with Jinx's penalty, the gap came down to 4 thousandths of a second. But now, unless all hell breaks loose, which I hope it doesn't, there's going to be no safety cars, which I think Tam is going to bring a side of relief. He's pretty much led every single safety car, to be honest. Someone's off. Kieran again, and Finley had a moment, I think, as well. And Speed Knight and his way over the back of him as well. 1:18.6 for Tam as Simon Palmer. We got to keep an eye on the fuel usage as well. Matter tries to go the right-hand side now into 1. Simon Palmer goes the inside line in towards 2. They go on the right-hand side line now. Yarham's in this as well, despite that penalty. And Simon Palmer holds it up to 2nd. Yarham and Matt are going to keep squabbling through 3. Up the hill towards 4. Who's going to get 3rd on track? Well, it's going to be Matter so far. Yarham goes off the road. They almost made contact. Well, I think those two have raced each other before to know that they've given enough space. So fair play to the both of them. Matter stays in 3rd. Yarham in 4th. I don't think they should be squabbling that much because Yarham's got the penalty, but at least having a bit of fun nonetheless. As Tam is increasing that gap just a little bit. Purple in sector 2 once again. I'm guessing he'll get fastest lap. I'm almost certain of it. We only got 13 runners at the moment. And if you're not a lap down, you're going to be scoring points. If I were you, I would keep going.
Yeah, definitely keep going if that is the case. I don't think Jinx is in control of his car. No, he's not. He's in AI mode, so I'm not sure if he will get points for that as not as Finley has crashed. That is a shame. Finley has crashed coming out of turn 11 and he is out of the race. It was looking like it could have been a really strong comeback at the start of after the restart, but it's just kind of fallen apart. As here comes Mata and Simon Palmer for that second place again, and Yarham from a mile back tries to dive the pair of them and ends up slamming into the side of the Red Bull and doesn't get the move done. But Mata is through and into second place. From at the back of the field at the start of this race is now the AlphaTauris are side by side, and Tet31's going to force his teammate completely off the road on the outside of turn 1, but Juin is going to try and go down the inside for turn number 2. He'll get down the inside, and Tet31 will turn in on him and spin his teammate out. That was poor racing between the two AlphaTauris running into each other, and Juin is spun. Unfortunately, that's put Keza and Speed 19 up a few places as well, so 19 is going to get those first points of the season as Cam has now spun at turn 4. It's all kicking off on the final lap, but Cam with that rear wing damage. Yeah, that rear wing damage, Cam really struggling to get the car spun back around again. But no matter what has been thrown at him and all the carnage that has happened tonight, Tam has looked like the clear favourite to win, and he is going to come home the winner here as well. And what a recovery for Mata as well after that opening lap to be on the podium.
Well, I have to say, Tam has had a few issues this race. We didn't think he would go on and win this one, but like we were saying, no matter what issues is thrown at him, he still goes on and delivers. Perfect strategy. He's done what George Russell has done in the Brazil race. He's won his maiden victory at VSL. He's finally done it. We were expecting him to do it many races ago, but finally he's a Grand Prix race winner, and I couldn't be more happy for him. Well done. He can now celebrate. Mata comes across the line in second. I have to say, Tam, and the top 3, I've got to say, are my driver of the days. Absolutely faultless driving between all 3 of them, and some good race between the pair of them. If it wasn't for Pete's spin, by the way, I would have put Knight in for driver of the day, but he still finished in 6th, which I have to say is quite incredible because everyone else had a bit of issues. So I would put Speed 9 up there as well as one of the driver of the days because that good start as well. But imagine where he would have been without that spin. Would he have fought for the win? I don't know. But I would have to say the top 3 and Pete, my nominees for driver of the day. Obviously Tam dominating as well, but Mata coming from the back of the grid at the start to almost winning, I have to say, is crazy. Great stuff from those guys. And yeah, I think we've had a lot better race towards the end. I think they were probably too scared of my ranting. I think. Yeah, it was once it turned dry, the racing got really, really good. But yeah, on the intermediate tyres, the racing there was a bit of a shame to watch. Unfortunately, not what we want to see. So hopefully these drivers can fix it for the next round of the season. But yeah, for Tam, dream round really, isn't it? Full maximum points that you can get pretty much from an event. And after the DNF he had in Spain, with Jinx not scoring any points really here tonight either, that's going to put Tam back into the lead of the championship. And with Charlie Harris, of course, not scoring any points either, that is going to put Tam in quite a comfortable position championship-wise, so he can be very happy with how tonight's gone. Yeah, the gap was, I think, around about 30 points, I believe. So that's going to put Tam right in contention. I'm excited to see how this standings are going to play out, and also don't forget there will be stewards' inquiries. I will be surprised if I don't see any, to be honest. I'm expecting the instant submission channel on Discord to be completely full with tier 1 instants. If not, I don't know what's happened, but I know some people would just probably think, you know what, it was an accident. I won't game much, but we'll see. But anyway, your results then for the Hungarian Grand Prix. It felt like a long one, which it definitely was. So thank you guys for sticking with us. Let's go to the race. There we go. So Tam does get maximum points because he got fastest lap as well. So he's got the hat trick. He's got the pole as well. So Tam in first, Mata in second. He's got some very good points as well in the sprint as well. So these points for him. I believe he's second in the whole weekend. Yes, he is. So great stuff for him. Simon Palmer in third. And we got Johan Batesy, Speed 19, Keza, Ewan, Tet31 Racing, Cam, Jinx, Kieran and Finley. I'm not sure they'll be classified, but we'll see anyway. But your ones that are definitely not going to be classified are Charlie Harris, Luke, Iceman, and Petrodax. So yeah, that is the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix. The Carnage Fest Grand Prix, as I like to say. And it's happened to me last night. Every time there's a Hungarian Grand Prix race, there seems to be carnage. I just don't get it.
Something about the track, isn't it? I think because it's a difficult track to overtake, I think people get aggressive because they kind of need to be to try and get the overtakes done, and in the end, it just doesn't work most of the time, unfortunately, because the track doesn't allow for it. So yeah, I think people get a bit frustrated, and especially with it being wet as well, it makes the overtaking harder. So it makes some of the overtaking more desperate as well. And of course, we saw the very odd strategy again today from Mercedes, which didn't really help matters either way, but. Yeah, it's definitely been one of those races tonight, which is a bit of a shame. It's a shame to see. We want to see these drivers racing fairly and cleanly with one another, but tonight just wasn't the night for them, unfortunately. And hopefully for the next round, it will improve.
Hopefully as well. Where are we next? Well, yeah, Portugal. I should have said Portugal next week for round number 6 of the championship. Quite a different track in terms of elevation changes, I have to say, and a lot of people like this track. I like this track as well, and. I've commentated on this track before, and there were some good battles last season, so I think this is a track which I'm very much looking forward to, and a great one to wrap up the first half of the season. So make sure you tune in for that one. Any thoughts about the track as a whole?
I think Portugal's a lovely track. It is a lovely track to drive. Me personally, I'm not very good at it. It doesn't seem to suit my driving style, but yeah, it's a lovely track to watch racing, and just the elevation change and everything about it is lovely. I do wish it was a permanent feature in Formula One, because I think it is a brilliant circuit, and I think it would benefit massively from the new cars. I think Portugal would. I think it would make for an amazing race. So it's a shame it's not there full time. I do wish it was there in place of some other tracks that we've kept that I don't think are particularly strong in real life F1. I think Portugal offers a lot more than some others do. So yeah, shame to not see it in a real life F1. But I love the track. I think it's great. I've always loved it when it was part of course when it's part of the GT3 championships and the Blancpain Endurance Championship and that kind of thing as well. And of course we've seen people like GP2 and stuff like that run in the early years there as well. It's an amazing circuit, and racing wise as well, turn 1's a little bit of a pinch point. That will definitely be something, but other than that, the circuit's very wide. It allows for racing. It's one of the circuits on the calendar where you can kind of race side by side for a lot of the corners, because there's a lot of different lines you can take. So it allows for great side by side racing, and hopefully we get a lot of that next time out, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it is dry.
Fingers crossed it's dry, because we were hoping for a dry race. We didn't get it, and carnage ensued. So I'm going to pray to the dry weather gods next week, please. But anyway, we're going to head off now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out our socials. The links to our Twitter, well, it is on the screen, so you can see and follow us and all that magic. Also follow us on Twitter at VSL_F1 and Instagram as well. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And like this video, hit that notification bell. Check out our sponsors on the top as well. We're going to have to go now. Have a good evening. We will see you next time for the Portuguese Grand Prix. I'm excited for this one. Can it be next week already? Anyway, take care, stay safe, and goodbye.